The morning the warning came was wrapped in a strange silence, the kind that settles before a storm you don't yet see. The city was waking up, glass towers catching pale sunlight, while far below, a thin girl with tired eyes stood outside a luxury grocery store holding a small bag of returned bottles. Her clothes were clean but worn, her posture careful, as if she had learned early how to take up as little space as possible in a world that rarely noticed people like her. What happened next would unravel secrets buried under money, power, and pride, and would leave a man who owned half the skyline on his knees, crying over the truth he had been blind to. Before the story pulls you deeper, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet power of doing the right thing even when no one is watching, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel, and also tell us in the comments where you're watching from, because stories like this connect hearts across the world. The girl's name was Lily Carter. She was 19, an orphan since 16, surviving on odd jobs and the discipline her late mother had taught her. Her mother had once worked as a cleaner in private homes, including one that belonged to a family so wealthy their leftovers could have fed an entire street. Lily remembered those days clearly, not because of the money, but because her mother had always told her to observe carefully, to notice details others ignored, because details often carried truth. That habit saved Lily more than once, and on this day, it would save a life. Inside the store, Eleanor Whitmore, the pregnant wife of billionaire Marcus Whitmore, moved slowly through the aisles. Her pregnancy had been difficult, wrapped in anxiety and constant monitoring, but she carried herself with grace. Security hovered nearby, subtle but present. Eleanor believed deeply in healthy living, and her personal assistant had ordered a fresh-pressed juice cleanse from a boutique brand that prided itself on purity and exclusivity. As Lily waited to return the bottles she had collected from the recycling bins behind the store, she noticed the delivery crates. Something about the labels felt wrong to her trained eye. The seal color was slightly off, the batch code printed in a different alignment. It was a small thing, the kind of thing most people would never see, but Lily felt a cold ripple of unease. Lily had once worked briefly at a juice bar, where she learned how batches were marked, how recalls happened quietly before the public ever knew. She also knew what spoiled ingredients smelled like, even through sealed glass. As Eleanor's assistant picked up the bottles and placed them carefully in a designer bag, Lily's heart began to pound. Fear wrestled with doubt. Who was she to say anything? She was nobody, a poor girl with no proof, no authority. Speaking up could get her thrown out, humiliated, or worse. Yet her mother's voice echoed in her mind, reminding her that silence can be a form of harm. With shaking resolve, Lily stepped forward, her voice barely steady, and urgently warned the pregnant woman not to drink the juice. The words spilled out clumsily, without polish, but with raw sincerity. Security reacted instantly, suspicion hardening their faces, while Eleanor froze, one hand resting instinctively on her stomach. In that moment, Lily expected to be dragged away, dismissed as a nuisance or a scammer. Instead, Eleanor saw something in the girl's eyes that money could not buy, a desperate honesty that cut through the noise of privilege. Marcus Whitmore was called within minutes. He arrived with the presence of a man used to control, his tailored suit sharp, his expression guarded. To him, the world was a system of risks and returns, and interruptions like this were usually handled by lawyers. Yet when he looked at Lily, he didn't see a threat, he saw a trembling young woman who looked like she hadn't slept enough nights in her life. Against his instincts, Marcus ordered the juice to be tested before Eleanor touched it, more to reassure his wife than because he believed Lily. What the lab discovered shattered the illusion of safety Marcus had built around his wealth. The juice contained a toxic contaminant from a supplier who had quietly switched sources to cut costs. In small amounts, it caused severe complications. In pregnancy, it could have been fatal. The realization hit Marcus with a force he had not felt since childhood. For all his power, for all the safeguards money bought, his family had been one careless sip away from tragedy, and the warning had come from someone society had taught him not to see. As the truth sank in, Marcus felt something inside him break. He thought of the countless times he had walked past people like Lily without a glance, convinced that success made him insulated from the randomness of harm. He thought of Eleanor, pale and shaken, and of the child they had prayed for through months of fear. The image of Lily standing alone, risking everything to warn a stranger, replayed in his mind until tears he could not control blurred his vision. He cried not just from relief, but from shame. Lily, meanwhile, waited outside, certain she had crossed a line she would pay for. Instead, she was invited back in. Marcus listened to her story, really listened, for the first time in years, listening without thinking of leverage or advantage. He learned about her mother, about the way Lily moved through the world quietly, helping where she could, returning wallets, warning store clerks about expired stock, believing that doing good was a duty, not a transaction. Each word pressed deeper into Marcus's conscience. In the days that followed, the story did not go public, but its impact reshaped lives behind closed doors. Marcus launched an investigation that uncovered widespread negligence in several luxury food suppliers, a problem hidden behind branding and price tags. Contracts were terminated, standards rewritten, and lives potentially saved without ever knowing how close they had come to harm. For Marcus, the greatest change was personal. He could no longer ignore the gap between his world and Lily's. Lily was offered help, but not as charity. Marcus arranged for her education to continue, supported her dream of studying food safety and public health, and ensured she had stable housing. Eleanor insisted on being part of Lily's life, seeing her not as a savior, but as family bound by an unspoken bond. For Lily, the transformation was overwhelming, not because of the comfort, but because someone had finally acknowledged her worth. Months later, when Eleanor gave birth to a healthy baby boy, Marcus held his son and felt again the sting of tears. He understood now that his child's life was tied to a choice made by a poor girl who refused to look away. The world praised billionaires for their vision and leadership, but Marcus knew the truest courage he had witnessed came from someone with nothing to gain. As time passed, Marcus began visiting shelters and community centers without cameras or announcements, listening to stories he had once ignored. He funded programs quietly, focusing on prevention and dignity rather than publicity. Every step forward reminded him of that morning, of how close he had come to losing everything that mattered, and of how grace had arrived in the form of a warning he almost dismissed. If this story is reaching you right now, take a moment and reflect on how many Lilies might be around you, unheard but watching carefully, ready to do good even when the world gives them little reason to hope. Just before this story ends, please comment one word that describes how it made you feel, because your words matter more than you know. Near the end of his journey of change, Marcus met Lily again at her graduation ceremony. There were no speeches about heroes, no grand gestures, just a quiet understanding between two people whose lives had intersected for a reason. The lesson lingered long after the applause faded, a reminder that humanity is not measured by wealth, but by the courage to care. And if this story touched your heart even a little, please like the video, share it with someone who believes in kindness, and stay connected with this channel, because every interaction helps stories like this reach someone who might need hope today.